So this is the dumbest setup that I have. This microphone is not plugged into my phone. It is plugged into my computer and is directly recording into the editing program that I'm using, because I don't want to have shitty microphone for every single second of this. So if the audio varies, that's why, because sometimes the audio might be on my phone and sometimes it might be on this beautiful creature right here. I'm doing my best. I tried to plug it into my phone. I tried to record this into my phone. But what ended up happening is that after, if I was silent for more than 5 seconds, immediately the audios and the visuals would go out of sync. So, this is what we're working with. This is recording directly into the computer, and I'm going to try and sync it with the visuals later, but for right now, we're stuck with trash. If it's trash, it's fine. It's fine. I will live. I'm having a mental breakdown at this point. Okay. Fun. Riley needs a drink. Maybe this will work out nicely. Maybe I can put some effort into this. Okay, let's find out. Let's go. Let's start the actual video. So CW Supergirl is almost over, and there have been problems plaguing the show since its inception. I could honestly do a 2-hour H-Bomber Guy style takedown of the show, but I also have another big project that I'm trying to get done by July, so, instead I'm just gonna look at one aspect. And me being the shipper that I am, I have chosen Kara's romantic arcs. Kara has had 3 main love interests in the series: James Olsen, Mon-El of Daxam, and William Day. There's problems with all 3 of them. They're all controversial, not really well liked, and there's always someone making a big fuss out of it. James is too generic, Mon-El is problematic, and William just kind of exists. I've found that these love interests don't really mesh well with Kara. Why do you guys even like each other? What do you guys do on dates? It's also reflective of them doing a lot of telling instead of showing in the show itself. It's very apparent in the romantic storylines also. The characters will go on and on about why they like each other, but we never really understand why. It's always, because you're beautiful and smart and blah blah blah, instead of showing them seeing that in the character. It'd be like if for the past 12 seasons of Supernatural, Castiel was in no way devoted to Dean, but still had his confession of love at the end of the series. It wouldn't make any sense. Let's face it, we'd all be confused, and it's just as confusing here. And I feel like I'm the only one who's noticed this problem, which is that all of Kara's love interests are huge. James and William are reporters, and they look like this. What reporter looks like that? And then you also have Mon-El. While Mon-El is not as jacked, for lack of a better term, he's still muscular and half a foot taller than Kara. It feels like they're trying to overcompensate with Kara being, physically strong by still having her be with a dude who is also physically strong, but in a human sense. Like a weird balance kind of thing? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, and it's weird. It might just be Hollywood and the CW's obsession with conventionally attractive tall dudes, though. It's probably not that deep. Come on, guys. There are short kings out there. And these are just the problems that spring up with all 3 of them. There's still more for each individual romance. Overall, the problem is obviously bad writing, but I just can't say, oh, it's bad writing. I need to actually explain what the bad writing is. So what was the bad writing?
Don't you have a city to protect? Up and away?
James is my favorite of Kara's love interests, but low bar. He's introduced in the pilot where he and Kara instantly like each other. They're totally in love. Look at them. They have crushes. Blah, 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 blah. Instant sparks. Heterosexuality. Oh, the heteros. Are they okay? Seriously, heteros, are you okay? They flirt, and Kara's got her big obvious crush on him for about 3 episodes till Kara decides, you know what, I'm gonna tell James how I feel. But the second she goes to do that, oh, there's another woman in the room. And it turns out that it's James's ex, Lucy. Lucy wants to get back together with James, and they end up doing so. They're together until about episode 15, which is where Lucy decides that Kara and James are in love and proceeds to break up with James. After that, there's about 5 episodes left in the season, and Kara and James get together in the end. This could have worked if there weren't 2 love triangles at the same time. Yeah, Kara's friend Win is also in love with Kara, and he like kind of annoys me until the episode where he actually confesses his love, and then after that he becomes a much more tolerable character to the point where, you know what, I actively like him. But we all knew that Win was never going to be able to be with Kara. After all, Jeremy Jordan is only 2 inches taller than Melissa Benoist. The Kara-Lucy-James love triangle doesn't help the overall development of the pair, because let's face it, anytime Kara and James have a moment, there's a point in the back of your head going, hey, wait, he's with Lucy, stop that, guys. Overall, the development could have been worse, but the girl as obstacle and double love triangle did not help the pair in the long run. Despite all of that, their breakup in Season 2 is one of the stupidest decisions the show has ever made. Season 2 starts with Kara excited to go on a date with James, but Alex is like, oh no, you seem fake excited. You're not actually excited. Then their date happens, but it gets interrupted by a disaster, and Kara teams up with Superman. Some point in all of this, Kara decides, you know what, I don't actually wish to date James. You know, after a whole season of build-up, she just decides, no, I'm not into James. They drop the main love interest like less than 48 hours after they've gotten together. I'm still not over how stupid this is. Like, James didn't do anything. He's not there for most of the episode. Alex doesn't say anything aside from that one fake excited comment, and Clark doesn't say anything to make her think, oh, maybe I should break up with James. It's just, what the fuck? This is actually somewhat reflective of the Arrowverse, as Arrow did the same thing with Laurel and Oliver. However, there's certain things with the whole Arrow situation that made it less forced than it is on Supergirl. One, Oliver cheated on Laurel with her sister at the start of the show, so I don't know why she would want to get back together with him in the first place. That was a bad decision on her part. 2, there were several months between the end of Season 1 of Arrow and the start of Season 2. Months that Laurel and Oliver spent apart before coming to this decision. 3, their best friend Tommy literally just died, and they had to deal with the trauma from that in their own ways. And in the end, they just weren't romantically good for each other. Sure, the real behind-the-scenes reasons is that Laurel and Oliver weren't working as a couple, and the writers wanted to put Oliver with Felicity, but it's still handled better on Arrow than it is on Supergirl. Kara and James proceed to be awkward for about half a season before becoming friends and staying that way till James leaves at the beginning of Season 5. They rarely bring up that Kara and James used to date until Lena and James start dating, which was another stupid decision by the writers. Like, what even was that? I get that you need to fill storylines for characters, but throwing 2 random heteros together is never the answer, guys. Come on. Kara and James are decent, but fall into too many generic tropes. Their overall stupid ending also brought down the pair for a lot of people. Sadly, the fanbase had a massive backlash against James after the breakup, and this spread to Makad as well. Although, Makad was paid to kiss Katie McGraw on screen, so clearly he deserved all those death threats that he received. Come on, guys. Kissing your co-star that you're paid to kiss clearly means you deserve to die. James didn't do anything wrong. He and Kara just broke up. It's really not that deep. Granted, the show always had a problem writing James, and it would continue going forward. And I have a theory as to why. Now, I might be wrong about this, but I think it might have been racism. Just a hunch, possibly, just a theory. But it was probably racism.
Is it because I didn't say please? Because, in some worlds, please isn't even, that big of a thing.
Mon-El is my least favorite love interest and is one of my least favorite characters in the whole Arrowverse. Weirdly enough, he seems to be the most popular one among the fan base, or at least the one people pay the most attention to. Regardless of who you are, you have something positive or negative to say about him. Mine's mostly negative. He annoys me to no end, and his character development is really weird. And by weird, I mean bad. It's bad. Mon-El is introduced at the end of Season 1 and the start of Season 2, with Kara opening his pod and revealing him in a coma. He stays that way for 2 days, and the second he wakes up, he immediately attacks Kara and escapes the DEO. They eventually recapture him and find out that he's a Daxamite. Sort of a sister species to Kryptonians, they lived in the same solar system but had wildly different values. This led to a war, later an armistice, but people still hate each other. Daxamites also owned slaves, mostly by the royal family. Put a pin in that. Kara is angry that Mon-El is a Daxamite, but they eventually work things out. We then get to the Kara trains Mon-El to live on Earth part of their romance. So Mon-El nearly costs Winn his job, and then Kara gets Mon-El a job at Catco, and when he's there, he doesn't do his work and pushes it off on Eve, and then has sex with Eve in the office. Then when Kara informs him that he was fired, she tells him to get a job on his own, and he decides, you know what, I'm gonna shake people down for money for crime bosses. This man has logical thinking skills and is a super nice guy. He's great. Yeah. After him and Kara have a fight, he no longer does that job and instead works at Al's bar. Mon-El is invited over for Thanksgiving, and everyone feels the need to point out that Mon-El has a giant crush on Kara. Yes, because I totally 100% love it in media when everyone feels the need to point out that two characters like each other, even though 80% of them have never seen them interact at all. No, it's totally not annoying. Doesn't help that most of their screen time together were spent fighting or Kara training Mon-El to be a better person. This is actually a really tired trope, and most fans were aware of that when they were watching the show. Girl fixes guy who needs to be a better person and enforces this really negative idea that that's all women are for. And the fact that they did it in a show that is meant to be an inspiration for young girls really rubs me the wrong way. Mon-El is infected by a disease that affects Daxamites, and for lack of a better term, I'm gonna say drunkenly kisses Kara. When he's cured, he pretends that nothing happened. I can't really call Kara and Mon-El too fast, but I can't call them too slow either. Forced. Forced is the word I'm looking for. They're forced. At least the actors have chemistry. They're not together, but Mon-El decides he wants to be a superhero, and Kara is like, yeah, sure, but you gotta listen to me. Then, after breaking into her apartment later, he informs her that he remembers the kiss and is okay with them just being friends because Kara doesn't feel the same way. Excuse me while I go in a 20-minute rant about how media needs to depict people getting over their crushes more and not just for gay people, because honestly, straight people need to learn that too. They get together like 2 episodes later, but are interrupted by Mr. Word on screen here. They call him Mixie for a reason. Who wants to marry Kara? This episode's fucking weird because Kara is constantly telling Mixie that, oh, you can't make someone love you, and how great would that have been to tie it into the relationship between Kara and Mon-El. Like, he won't take no for an answer, so Kara has to constantly be like, no, you need to take this, no. But instead, they went with the worst kind of heterosexual and just put them together. no one's ever allowed to get over anyone and just have them be friends. They only did it once, and that was because he was a short king. Mon-El and Kara are also just fighting the whole episode. And Mon-El keeps away to get rid of Mixie because it's quote-unquote impossible. They somehow decide to still be together at the end of the episode. This is also the same episode where he says this.
Come on. Yeah, things were a lot easier on Daxam when I objectified women and didn't care about anyone.
This show is feminist. We swear. Note to self, make a video on white feminism and Supergirl. So the next episode, when Kara asks Mon-El to keep their relationship on the down low for a little bit, he instead yells it to the whole DEO. Yeah. This is also the same episode where it's revealed that Mon-El has secretly been the Prince of Daxam the whole time. So that thing about the royal family owning slaves, Mon-El owns slaves. Just want to point that out. Kara then breaks up with him and we get into the musical crossover episode with The Flash, which is not a good episode. It's not a good musical episode. It's not a good anything episode. It's just bad. The only highlight is this one line that Jeremy Jordan sings. You better take a good look around. Oh, if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart. Everything else, it doesn't make any sense. They literally had both Kara and Mon-El and then Barry and Iris break up so that they could fix their problems by the end of the episode. But the issue is that both of their problems cannot be fixed with a musical number. And we're not even going to get into how they didn't even do the Music Meister correctly, because instead he's like, oh, I'm going to put you in a dream sequence that makes it your favorite movie. That is not the Music Meister. Music Meister could make people sing IRL and obey him like he did in Batman the Brave and the Bold. The Arrowverse has so much singing talent and you wasted it. Ah! I'm fine. I'm over it. I'm fine. So Mon-El and Kara are back together even though they didn't fix any of their problems. Then Mon-El's mom threatens to destroy the Earth, and they make a device that will put lead in the air and get rid of all the Daxamites, but as a result, Mon-El is gonna have to leave Earth. Oh no, I'm so sad. Don't leave. Like this scene goes on forever, and I'm just yelling, please, get rid of him. Like, God, make him leave already. I hate him so much. I'm sorry to anyone who likes Mon-El, but this is my channel, and I can complain about him as much as I want. Now we get into season 3 because this fucker comes back for some reason. Kara is sad about him being gone. It turns out Mon-El ended up going into the future and forming the Legion of Superheroes. Hold in the Legion of Superheroes based rants, Riley. Hold them in! And 7 years later, a group of them gets sent back in time because reasons. The reasons aren't important. They find him and one of the pods in the ships breaks, so they have to rescue the woman inside, who turns out to be Imra Ardeen, aka Saturn Girl. She's my favorite Legionnaire. She's also Mon-El's wife. I said I was gonna hold in some Legion-based rants, but I am a liar. I'm a total liar. And this has to do with romance, so I'm gonna yell about it. How dare they put Mon-El with Imra? Imra is married to Garth Rance, aka Lightning Lad, who got name dropped in The Flash, and I'm kind of mad about it. Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl are the Lois and Clark of the Legion of Superheroes. They have been together since the 60s and got married in the 80s. They do not break up and constantly get back together. They are together. They are iconic, and you want to break them up for some random drama? For some CW bait drama? Mon-El has a wife in the comics. Use her. Tasmia Maller exists. You can still have Imra being the one who gets out of the pod, okay? Tasmia can be in one of the pods. I will take it. Just not this bullshit. Just not this! And I don't care if it's later revealed that Imra and Mon-El were in an arranged marriage. Does not matter. It's still bullshit and was one of my least favorite decisions they made with the Legion in the show. Right after Mon-El being a founder of the Legion, because he is not a founder of the Legion. The founders of the Legion are Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, and Cosmic Boy. Alright, I'm done. You know, if they, said Brady was a founder of the Legion instead of Mon-El, and it was still Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl, that I would understand, because a lot of people see Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, and Brainiac 5 as, the big core 3 of the Legion. But no, Mon-El's there, he couldn't just find the Legion, he had to found the Legion. I'm fine. I'm over it. Alright, back to you know what I'm going back to. Kara is upset because Mon-El exists for several episodes, and I feel the same way whenever he's on screen. They mostly patch things up at episode 10, until the episode where Jean's father loses control of his psychic abilities and causes everyone's emotions to run high. Which leads to one of my favorite scenes in all of Supergirl.
I don't think you get that I gave my heart to a lying jackass who was unaware of his behavior towards me, who disrespected me at every turn, and now is this reformed person who, he wants to reminisce about the good times?
The catharsis I feel from this is very high. I love it when Kara calls people out on their bullshit. She does it twice with Lena in season 5, and I'd been waiting for her to do that since, I don't know how long. So yeah, I love it. Mon-El exists for the rest of the season until he goes back to the future and I don't have to deal with him anymore, thank fucking God. I guess the reason people like them together is that their actors had chemistry. They're married IRL. They do have some sweet moments, but they're tainted by a lot of other stuff that's not as sweet. It's not like how it is with James, where it's mostly fine, but a little too love triangle-y. Mon-El is a piece of work, and while I wouldn't say it's abusive, it's not necessarily healthy either. That's another reason people disliked them together. Kara playing the part of fixing a man didn't help either. It's an old trope that many people are just sick and tired of. And some would say that he didn't even go through development. He stayed annoying. Well, actually, he did go through some. He went from, I hate Kara, to, if I don't be a good person, Kara won't want to date me, so I should be a good person, but only for that reason. Once upon a time, this is your fault. There's also the problem of who he's replacing as a love interest. People didn't like that Kara and James broke up, only for Kara to end up with Mon-El half a season later. There's just some negative implications with that one. Because, the writers made Kara break up with a nice black guy who talked about how much he loved her smile, only for her next love interest to be a frat guy ex-slave owner. We really went from Chanel to Walmart on that one.
When I wrote for the Times, I wrote stories the way the Times wanted them. Did the same for Le Monde in French, no less than Mail. However, I wrote tabloid style.
William is my second favorite love interest, but he is also my second least favorite. It's a short list, people. William mostly just exists. There's not a lot to be angry or passionate about in any way. At most, I'm just kind of annoyed that he's the third love interest for Kara that they're introducing. It's annoying, but I don't really have the energy to care about it. I have other things to focus on. He's also the least favorite among fans, and I kind of just blame the fact that we're 5 seasons in, and most people have their preferred Kara ship at this point. This isn't Supernatural where you can introduce random romantic arcs late in the game and have everyone still care. Granted, that show went on for 10 extra seasons, and Dustiel didn't even go full canon. Alright, I'll stop talking about Dustiel. I'm sorry, it's my favorite love story and I can't help but compare. Okay, so William is introduced in the show, insulting Kara's work. and them hating each other. We're off to a great start, people. Why do heteros think it's cute to set up a relationship by having two people hate each other for no reason? I can't say anything. I ship Mia and Zoe on Arrow, and I'm the only one that does. I also ship Sam and Bucky, but those are extenuating circumstances. Bucky was a mind-controlled assassin when he attacked Sam. And then they both have issues. Where was I? Oh yeah. The boring one. Kara and William continue to butt heads until it turns out that William was investigating Andrea Rojas, and that's why he went to work for Catco. He was trying to find his missing friend. He says that Kara's work is actually really great, and the two start to work together. Then crisis happens. Woo. And it's retconned that he's now looking into Lex Luthor. Then at the end of the episode where Winn comes back, they have their little, oh, I guess we like each other moment, which is standard in all CW shows. And then for the first time in the whole show, he interacts with a character that isn't Kara or Andrea. Now excuse me while I go finish the rest of the show so I can properly write this essay. Me stopping the show didn't have anything to do with William. This happens every season, guys. I get bored about halfway through and then decide to catch up on Netflix when it gets announced that it's coming back. The only show I don't do this for is Legends. I love my disaster gaze.
2 days later.
You can't use karaoke as a shorthand for romance. Why do the Supergirl writers think that karaoke is a shorthand for romance? Also, people pointing out that Kara has a giant crush on William continues to be a thing I hate. Did we not learn our lesson last time with Mon-El? Did we never learn it on Legends of Tomorrow? No, they still think that romance is good. I will say getting the asking out part of the relationship out of the way is very beneficial for it, instead of dragging it out until who knows when. But talking about it in the middle of the mission, no, Kara, Winn. Actually, this is on Winn. Winn, what the fuck? Dude, calm down. I don't care if it has a just try dating thing. Now is not the time. This conversation could have happened afterwards. In the end, I hope this is a we tried dating and it didn't work out kind of thing. Would be more beneficial, I think. On the bright side, when Kara does reject him, he's okay with getting rejected. Like, he doesn't make her feel bad or anything. Although, the fact that we're dealing with double life drama, which is something we avoided with the other two love interests, is so annoying. Like, if I wanted secret identity-based romance drama, I'd watch Miraculous Ladybug. Which I don't, but my roommate does, so as a result, I kinda do. There's gotta be another romance option that is perfectly nice and doesn't have any secret identity-based hang-ups. They're out there. I know they are. But who? And then they have some reporter stuff, and they already did this with James. They already did it with James. This is why I kind of say that William is a combo of James and Mon-El. You get the not liking each other first of Mon-El, and the reporter stuff of James. Also the jacked stuff of James. Like, this dude is so... Why are they so huge? They're reporters. I will say that the longer this storyline goes on, the less I hate it. The biggest issue is that the actors just don't have the chemistry to carry it, and they didn't do a very good job of integrating William with the rest of the main cast. Has this man even met Brainy? They go on a date, and then for the rest of the season, they act like friendly coworkers. I kind of forgot they were dating. They haven't even kissed. And this was made pre-COVID times, so... They could have. They were probably going to kiss in the finale, but obviously they had to stop production because the COVID. She saves him at the end of season 5, and he still doesn't know she's Supergirl. This is going to be a contention in their relationship. They're going to have to bring it up eventually. I'm writing this like 5 episodes into season 6, so there's really not much else I can add. William just kind of exists at this point. That's pretty much the biggest problem. He doesn't add a lot. None of his scenes are annoying, but he's not doing much. And they didn't carve out a lot of time for the romance, so it's kind of easy to forget that he's there. It also doesn't help that it took him so long to start interacting with other characters that aren't Kara. Game night was the first time that happens, and even afterwards, it's a rare occurrence. Like, there's an episode where he mostly interacts with Kelly, and I'm just like, whoa, you can interact with other characters? I didn't know you did that. He's also just introduced way too late. I'm not saying you can't introduce a love interest later on, but at this point, you have to make a lot of time for us to care because we already care about so many other characters. Given that it's the show's last season, they didn't carve out enough time for us to want him to be there either as an individual or as a love interest.
It's been 2.5 years since I went on a date. What if I forgot how to do it?
So each love interest had negatives that led to storylines that were divisive for fans. James was overly generic and relied on 2 different love triangles. Mon-El was too problematic and led to many girl fixes guy tropes. And William starting out hating Kara and just being added way too late in the game didn't gain him any favors. The show is coming to an end, and with that, they'll probably want to give Kara an endgame love interest. I don't think James is coming back anytime soon, so they're probably not going to go down that route. If they send Kara to the future to be with Mon-El, that's going to lead to many girl gives up whole life for guy tropes. Mon-El just brings up some very old tropes that people aren't fans of. So they'll probably just go with William. I mean, it exists. It's their most likely choice, but I'm not exactly a fan. It's probably their most boring option. But I think that there's one love interest option that the show hasn't explored yet. It'd be a little messy given how long the character has been on the show and they weren't setting up a romance in that time, but I think there are ways they can make it work. Or at least make it not awful.
Little tiny baby battle. Actually, let's keep talking. It'll help get my mind off this life or death scenario.
Brainiac 5 is my favorite Supergirl character and one of my favorites in the whole Arrowverse. Like, he's not higher than Zari, but no one's higher than Zari. He's sweet, adorable, incredibly intelligent, and loyal to his friends. He's also one of Kara's biggest comic book love interests. They're not Superman and Lois levels of iconic, but they've made it onto a couple of top 10 best superhero couples lists. I actually recently read their first comic book interaction, and they're incredibly sweet and adorable. It's a little 60s, obviously, because that's when the comic was made, but other than that, adorable. It's a relationship that would make sense to adapt into a Supergirl TV series. Like, I'm not a comic book purist. I'm really not. If you gotta make a change to fit the world you set up better, perfectly okay. But also, the comics exist, and if you're gonna base something off of them, you should probably read them and see what you can take. Brainy is introduced about halfway through season 3, trying to help Kara get out of her coma. Their intro episode is incredibly sweet and has a lot of Brainy supporting Kara moments. They bounce ideas off each other, they ask about each other's lives. Kara tells Brainy to go save the world, and Brainy finds the thing that Kara needs to remember to get out of her coma. They then have a little moment at the end of the episode where Brainy makes a joke, Kara laughs, Brainy says it's nice to meet her in real life, and walks away as Kara watches. I thought this was CW code for this is her new love interest. And I wasn't the only one. There was actually a point in the fandom where Caramel and Supercorp shippers were arguing over who accepted Brainy as a love interest for Kara more. It didn't last, but it was funny when it was going on. The rest of the season, they don't interact much. We get little moments here and there, but most of Brainy's screen time is spent developing his relationship with Winn, which is fine. Brainy was going to be a main character next season. He would have to forge relationships outside of Kara. The issue was that Winn was leaving at the end of that very same season. So they spent all this time on a relationship that wasn't really going to matter in the long run. Season 4 continues this trend, but replace Winn with Alex. We do get some cute moments, but we don't get to see them really work it together again until Bunker Hill, which includes this really cute moment where they talk about movies and this other cute little moment where Brainy gets confused and Kara has to turn him around. It's adorable. I love it. Then some more cute moments in Stand and Deliver, which is probably my favorite episode of the season. Kara is actually struggling with what her place should be in the alien rights protest, but Brainy reminds her about how much they need to stand together. Look at that sweet handhold. There was so much focus on that. General reminder that I'm gay and most gay cinema focuses on hands, so I say this is romance. Season 5, Brainy makes her suit. It's one of my favorite moments between them. And Brainy's love language is gifts and acts of service, so you know he truly does care about her. Then we get to the bottle episode, which is my favorite episode of the season. Now, the real good Kara and Brainy moments happen about halfway through after they discover the alternate Brainy's plan. He explains that his mother was evil and his father placed inhibitors on him to cut him off from most of his emotions. Now he's afraid to take them off. Kara is the one to assure him that he's not going to become evil because he has people who love him and will fight for him. Which is followed by Brainy saying that he needs to fight the other Brainy alone and then immediately deciding that Kara should actually come with. It's so them. There's another moment where he tries to protect her from the exosuits. They both work together to help Nia. This moment where Kara is hurt from kryptonite and he wants to go to her, but he's crushed by rubble instead. And then in the season finale when he stands up to Lex just to stop him from killing Kara. And then we get to season 6 where it's all little minor things so far because Kara is in the Phantom Zone. But he has regrets about not being able to save her and has a speech about how much she means to all of them. And then there's this moment.
I miss her.
Excuse me while I lie on the ground and scream over these crumbs. There's also just a bunch of moments throughout the show where Brainy is the one to make Kara smile or laugh. Most of the time on accident, some when he's not even there. She also has this understanding of him that not many other characters do. She gets his struggle on Earth, she gets his inability to comprehend emotions all the time. They don't have personal conflicts with each other, they just mesh. Since Brainy is introduced about halfway through season 3, there's more time for us to like his character. He's also not introduced as a love interest and interacts with more characters than just Kara and the main villain. So it's easy to see him mesh with the group and fit easily into Kara's life. Despite all that, Brainy was wasted in the show. We're never gonna get that Brainiac plot resolved, are we? I could also see them as a more realistic couple. Despite both being aliens with superpowers, they have a lot of really down-to-earth moments. I can see them at the end of an episode relaxing in front of a TV while eating pizza and watching movies, or just going on a dinner date. So many couples in speculative fiction feel like they wouldn't get together without the plot, but if you place these two in a normal setting without any sci-fi elements, they easily could be together. They're also both just self-sacrificing heroic idiots who need to stop doing that. Because it makes me feel things. Makes me feel emotions. This and 911 are really ruining my reputation as an emotionless lesbian asshole who hates the straights. So after explaining their whole deal and why they would work together as well as why I want them to be together, let's explain why it's actually not gonna happen. Despite me taking every little crumb as proof that they're gonna get together, here's why the writers were never gonna go through with it. The first being that they already spent 2 seasons on the Nia and Brainy romance. Nia and Brainy's relationship is very weird. First, it seems that Brainy has a crush on Nia. Then it's played that Brainy is unaware of Nia's feelings for him. Then they have a kiss. Then Brainy decides that they shouldn't be together. Then Nia doesn't really care. Then Brainy is in love with her? Rushed, people, rushed. Then they get together. But they're having problems and their relationship is mostly talking about the relationship. And then they have a brief breakup because Brainy loves Nia too much, I guess? I don't know. Then they get back together. Then Brainy gets his inhibitors taken off and he has to break up with Nia to protect her when he works with Lex to take down Leviathan. I guess somehow through all of this, Brainy became the most important person in Nia's life and we're just never gonna get anything resolved with her sister, are we? Then Brainy tells Nia he loves her as he's dying, and she eventually forgives him, and they agree to rebuild their relationship, and I think they're officially back together. So all of this happens over the course of 4, 5, and 6, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them to suddenly drop a romance after all this build-up. The writers of Supergirl have never done that before. I think they're okay together, but a lot of the romance is carried by the chemistry between the actors and not necessarily by the writing. It could be worse. The second reason that they're never going to go through with it is because Kara and Brainy mesh together. The CW loves to mine romance and all other relationships for drama, and it's super fucking tiring. This is why Riverdale fandom is the way it is. Relationships take time in TV series, and the best way to stop characters from getting together is misunderstandings and miscommunications. Because talking to people actually makes your relationship healthy. I don't know if you knew that, guys. But Brainy and Kara get along very well. You can't really mind them for drama because they get each other. They know each other super well without even trying. And I think the writers know that because it feels like they're deliberately not putting them in scenes together just so that they won't get along and the audience won't start rooting for them. Too late, I exist. There's a point in the show where a bunch of people need to have their memory erased of who Supergirl is, including Alex, so Brainy ends up being one of the few people that remembers that she's Supergirl. But they barely interact during that arc. Like, wouldn't it make sense for Kara to confide in him about all the stuff that they've been through? And he would be the only one seeing it from both sides, from Alex and Kara, and why didn't they talk during that arc? The untapped potential of this show is just, it's unreal. I'd say the fan fiction is better, but I'm barely reading any of it. And the third reason they're never going to put Kara and Brainy together is because Jessie Rath is the same height as Melissa Benoist. What? I'm serious. I've pointed out how jacked her love interests are. You think they're going to let the 5'8" guy with no visible muscle definition be Supergirl's love interest? No. CW requires only jacked men for leading men. Joking aside, it really does suck that they never adapted Kara and Brainy's relationship. I get that they didn't want to have a romance for Kara in season 4 because honestly, fuck constantly having a romance. But them throwing two random characters together didn't really work either. And I don't know if it's racism or transphobia, but Brainy and Nia aren't exactly popular in the fan base either. Or at least on the transformative work side. You find them more popular for GIF makers and random people tweeting. Not to judge everything by fan fiction, but Kelly is introduced in the same season as Nia, and she and Alex have significantly more fan fiction than Nia and Brainy. Then again, over half that fan fiction is them being in the background for Supercorp. Wait. Oh look, it seems to be the same for Brainy and... oh. Great. Fandom Rant aside, it's not the first time the CW has pushed aside comic-accurate love interests, and it's not the first time any comic book adaptation has done so. I'm looking at you, every single X-Men film. Like I said earlier, Arrow originally planned to have Laurel and Oliver be together, but it didn't end up working out. The writing wasn't going in their favor, and they decided to go with Oliver and Felicity instead, and just continued to screw over Laurel for the rest of the show. But at least they tried at first. Supergirl couldn't even do that much. They didn't even build up that deep of a friendship between them, instead relegating Brainy to the background and comic relief most of the time. I don't need the show to be 100% accurate to the comics, but I would like for the writers to at least read them. The whole show throwing random love interest after love interest at Kara when her biggest love interest is right there really just proves that. It's probably way too late in the game for them to fix the love interest problem, and they'll probably just go with something that most people don't like. Honestly, at this point, I'd rather have them drop the love interest thing entirely. I know strong female character don't need no man is kind of an annoying trope at this point, but at the same time, I'd rather have that than bad writing. All this has been my opinion, so feel free to express your own in the comments down below. What's your Supergirl love interest ranking? Should I do a video on Legion of Superheroes in the show, or even just white feminism in both the show and the fandom? Let me know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as well, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.